Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry. Hey, docs, welcome to another episode of Modern Chiropractic Mastery. This is your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, and today I'm excited to bring on Dr. Courtney Conley. She is from Gait Happens. You might have come across that Instagram profile that is blown up over the years, and the hard work that she's put into that has paid off. We talk about what it's been like since she was on the Peter Attia podcast and what that's done for her practice and positioning as well, and what it took to get there. She specializes in the foot and ankle, only sees patients in the foot and ankle. But if you're a chiropractor and the foot and ankle doesn't interest you, you can take a lot of what we talk about today and apply it to other aspects of building your practice. Because not only has she built a great practice, she's obviously built a great online following, and then now is a industry transformer. And maybe that's not in the cards for you, but if you do what we talk about today and some of the things that she's learned over the last 25 years, it'll be amazing how you position yourself in the community. And that's what we talk a lot about. We talk about her story, how she was able to position in the community, build a practice of her dreams, and then ultimately it has progressed from there. And so there's a lot of nuggets there. We even dive into a couple sidebar topics like, mastery, what it's like to try to get there. We also talk about the MPI Gait Seminar coming up that she's going to be presenting at with Dr. Thomas Show, Brett Winchester, and Mark King, which is going to be exciting. Quite a lineup. I just highly recommend you go to that. I've gone to the Gait Seminar in the past, and I highly recommend it. And it's going to be even better this year with Dr. Conley's efforts. And so, it's cool to bring on doctors that are clinical doctors. Like, the heart of who they are is a clinical doctor, but then has used content marketing to really separate themselves. And I know a lot of you, maybe think of marketing. If you're listening to this show, maybe you've kind of past that. But a lot of chiropractors, when they think of marketing, they think it's not for them or they shouldn't have to do that. But it's great when you see really good ethical chiropractors who've done it tastefully, build a practice in a professional career that is bigger than they could have imagined. And Dr. Conley has achieved that. So without further ado, here is my interview with Dr. Courtney Conley. All right, Dr. Conley, I really appreciate your time on the podcast today. Before we dive into certain things like positioning yourself as an expert in the community, building Gait Happens, and all things foot and ankle, tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's very exciting to speak to our colleagues. I have always been interested in the foot and ankle ever since I think I was very young. I was a ballet dancer. I spent a lot of time in point shoes, which never were comfortable for me. I would
Yeah.
always look at all these other dancers and like, how do they do this? And it just never liked it. And I developed bunions at a very young age. So I just always kind of struggled with foot issues.
Mhm.
As I went through school, I knew I wanted to do something that, with activity, with movement, that was always very important to me. And my father was a very big chiropractic fan. And so we would
Mhm.
have long discussions about chiropractic, and he kind of guided me in that direction. So I went to National, um, and I was lucky enough to study under Dr. Sean Allen. So he was one of the instructors there,
Mhm.
who really had a very good handle on foot mechanics. The only thing that was disappointing to me was that we didn't have enough of it.
Mhm.
We only had about, I want to say, maybe a half a semester.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was, we'd learn how to manipulate the foot, but there wasn't a lot of functional strength. There wasn't a lot of education on what the foot actually is doing and how important that is for the rest of the connect chain. Um, it was orthotic heavy.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I knew when I got out of school. And so when I graduated in 2003, um, I already was starting to gravitate towards the foot and ankle. But what we were doing is casting a lot of orthotics.
Yeah.
That's what we knew. And I had a lot of pairs of orthotics. Transitioned from being a ballet dancer to a triathlete. So now I was running and swimming and biking a lot.
Hmm.
And my feet, I was always struggling, like grinding orthotics here and sending them back and trying to keep tweaking things. And, long story short, I ended up moving to Colorado. And I worked in a couple orthotic labs out here. And we did some great work. And I still work, pretty closely with one of them. And I think there's a time and a place. But what I was starting to realize was that we're treating the foot very differently than we treat the rest of the body. And then I started to self explore. I've had the blessing of being surrounded by some very, very smart people, Dr. Tommy Shode being one of them.
Hmm.
Uh, and I kind of went deep. I dove deep into human locomotion. I think I've read that book like 45 times. I talked to him last week. He's like, I'm pretty sure you could recite this book. I'm like, I think I can, Tom. Um, so I started exploring a lot of this and my feet started feeling better.
Hmm.
I started removing my orthotics and here we are. It's been kind of a mission of mine to spread this word because I think it's extremely important, especially with all the current research that we're seeing with the importance of foot health and foot strength.
Have you convinced Ultra to build a pointing shoe for ballet dancers yet? That's your
They're
next
working.
next venture, right? Obviously, the ballet dancer's foot and ankle is a problem, right? And I think that's where you probably had a lot of interest. And like for me, I was a baseball player, pitcher, shoulder was my interest. I got into the foot and ankle for sure, but sometimes I think people fall into that early on where it's like, what is a problem that you've had? And then you kind of try to figure out your own solutions. Is that your MO sometimes is like trying to solve your own problems and then
Oh, sure. It's like your
taking it out to the
personal
community?
quest,
Yeah. Mhm. Absolutely.
which
And,
is really a wild thing to think about because, you'd think that now I specialize in foot and ankle. That's all I
mhm,
do.
yep.
And I'm always very honest with my audience in that I have bunions, I have had neuromas, I've had all of these things. And so I think it's relatable.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's like I just for instance, as a chiropractor, I've treated disc issues all the time until I had my own disc injury 6 years ago. I, couldn't fully relate until I had it, and then, like, you have this level of empathy, with your patient
Yeah.
now, and it's the same thing probably with you with the foot and ankle, and then you obviously have been able to, take your own self and do better, and so it gives you, that credibility to help others with it.
Yes, every time I kind of struggle with if I have a foot and ankle injury, um, I have to take a step back and view it as a blessing because I am reminded of how difficult it is to stay active when every step that you take hurts. And it
Yeah.
really can introduce a cycle of chronic pain and lack of movement and,
Mhm.
the sequela of depression and anxiety. So I really take my work seriously in that it's not just a physical well-being when you
Mhm.
pay attention to this stuff. It's mental and emotional.
Yeah, and a lot of times I try to take nuggets out of an interview and relate it for other chiropractors. And I think one of the things I'm seeing from a lot of younger DCs, and I'm sure it was the same way when we were coming up, but it takes a certain amount of effort and time and commitment to develop mastery in something, right? And I think in a lot of the younger DCs, they're getting exposed to so many cool techniques and treating every body part in the world and all the things. And they're having a hard time developing a layer of mastery. And just to give our audience a little bit of context, when do you feel like, and I know you're probably going to say, I'm still trying to find mastery, but when did you feel like you really started to get a grasp of the foot and ankle to where you felt very confident with most of the things coming in? And I know that we're always trying to get better, but how long did it honestly take you so that our audience can say, okay, yeah, like I'm 2 years out of school. I probably got a little bit more ahead of me to get to that level of mastery in whatever it is within chiropractic.
Yes, I mean, of course, I have to preface this with saying Um, just when you think you know what you're doing,
Yes.
get one of those cases where you're like, okay, I'm going home and,
Mhm.
reading and research. But I think that keeps us humble as a clinician, and which is one of the pieces that I love about it, because you're always just, you should never be bored,
Yeah.
because there is no protocol. Looking at each person rather than a diagnosis, I think, is extremely important. But, you know, I kind of live, eat, and breathe this
Mhm.
work, and I've been doing it for a very long time. It's probably been about 25 years. Um, it's interesting now that I have other chiropractors under me in my office,
Mhm.
um, and I see their eagerness to learn, but it can be a very, a part of the body that people tend to shy away from just because the complexity of the foot and ankle. So, when did I feel like I mastered it? Gosh,
Mhm. Mhm.
that is
You
a
felt
doesn't
really
feel like I still have so much to learn, you know?
Yeah, well, honestly, the
Um,
way you answered the question right out of the gates is a level of mastery because you know when you don't know something, and I think early on we think we know everything, and so that's a good sign of mastery is when you realize you don't know something.
yes, yes.
But yeah, I think it is ultimately chiropractors have to realize that it's going to take some time, and don't feel discouraged if you're not getting it right away, and keep at it. Obviously, let's take a break from today's episode and announce our first sponsor. This is going to be Propel Marketing and Design. I've known Darcy Sullivan for years. We've worked hand in hand on my websites. I don't trust anybody else to do this search engine optimization. She does a great job. There's so much to it. A lot of the lingo and the words are beyond my comprehension, but it's just amazing work that she does. And if you're really going to get results with Google, you have to make sure your website is SEO optimized, and I really don't want you doing it yourself as a chiropractor. So you just have to have this type of stuff done. And if you're looking to get more organic online traffic that pulls in new patients, Propel Marketing and Design is currently offering chiropractors who listen to this podcast a free SEO website review. The free review will help you uncover methods that will improve your website and boost your search engine visibility. Head over to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor and schedule your free SEO website review. You won't regret it. She gets great results. Your website needs this. Your search results need this. Head on over there to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor to get your free SEO website review. And you mentioned your practice and you got some docs working for you now. Just give us a little bit of a, you know, 30,000 foot overview of what your practice looks like, where it's located, and just kind of what that's looking like these days.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to open up different practices. So I was first in Chicago when I graduated. I worked as an associate for 3 years, which I'm very grateful. I think that I did because, I worked with other doctors. I wasn't by myself. I was kind of guided. I could see what I liked, what I didn't like.
Mhm.
Then I was opened up just myself in downtown Chicago, and I was starting to get busy about 2 years in, and I didn't want to be in Chicago anymore. And it was kind of a decision. It was a very tough decision because the work that it takes to build a practice and the marketing that it takes.
Mhm.
So I knew that I either had to leave then or I was going to be in Chicago. So I moved out to Colorado,
Mhm.
and this would be the practice I have now is the third location that I have opened just over the years.
Mhm.
At one point, I had three office locations, and I'm now down to one. It
Yeah.
was very tempting for me I'm going to have three office locations. And I'm so grateful now that we have funneled that into one. I think it's more controllable. I'm not
Mhm.
like bouncing around. So currently, we have an office in Lakewood, Colorado. I
Oh.
have three chiropractors,
Mhm.
uh, myself and my business partner. We have a physical therapist that works there. We have a massage therapist, and we built out a big gym.
Mhm.
So it's one of those places where you have the office front, you open up the garage door, and then there's the gym in the back. That was kind of my passion. I love movement. I love strength. So it worked very well for what we were trying to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then when you got to Colorado, and like, let's take the chiropractor that says, you know what, I want to definitely develop a following in the community around the foot and ankle. Whether they go all in and that's all they treat like you, or if it just wants to be a big part of that. Obviously, the table stakes is to get good at foot and ankle, understanding the assessments and the treatments and all that. So let's say they're on their way to there, they're doing good with that. What are some of the things like? Should they be meeting with podiatrists? Should they be meeting with gym trainer? Like, what would you start to say to help that chiropractor? Let's put aside digital marketing for right now, but just in the
Yeah.
community, what would you recommend they do to start building that expertise and that positioning?
Yeah, I actually wrote a lecture on finding your niche, and I think it's important because I think when we first come out of school, we're
Hmm.
just grabbing. We like we'll take
Yep.
any. We just want to fill our offices.
Yep.
And so when you think about, well, if I just niche down and do the foot and ankle, am I closing my doors to all the other
Mhm.
potential? And there's certainly two ways to look at that. If you do decide that, you know, you have a specific area that you love, that you want to treat, I'm all for that because that's when I love treating the foot and ankle. It's all I want to do. So when you're passionate about that, it makes all of the marketing, if you will, easy
Mhm.
because it's enjoyable.
Yep.
Spent a lot of time kind of in my niche with like
Mhm.
running, and I would keep it very do this marketing event and I'm going to do this. And then it becomes overwhelming. And frankly, I didn't enjoy running around like that. I wanted to be around the people that I
Mhm.
could talk the talk with.
Yeah, and how did you cut through the clutter of, everybody else and or the fact that how do we get them to think of me, the chiropractor, as the foot and ankle specialist? How did you do that? Was it a lot of working on people, demoing people, talking to them, having particular injury, maybe prevention talks around that?
Yes, I would do little talks at these running shoe stores. But I think the other thing, and it's kind of a joke amongst my friends now, but
Mhm.
at every party I'm ever at, I'm always on the floor, like looking at people's feet. I'm in it. Like I talk
Mhm.
about it. I literally do live, eat, and breathe this stuff. So
Yeah.
they're easy conversations to have. And I think and I'm happy to say I still get very excited about talking about it 25 years later. And if I'm not excited about it, I think it'll be time for me to call it.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then your other DCs that are in your practice, are they only doing foot and ankle or are they doing other stuff?
Yeah. So my business partner does other things. So
Yeah.
she specializes in ART. She
Mhm.
kind of has her own. She loves shoulders, which is good.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, the other two practitioners, when they came on, they were both fresh out of school, so
Yep.
younger. Um, and they were kind of just trying to figure out what they wanted to do.
Yep.
Um, but as of recently, I see all of my overflow. So they are starting to become more foot and gait and ankle
Mhm.
kind of specialists as well. One of the chiropractors who works for me in my brick and mortar in Lakewood also works for me for my online company, Gait Happens.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of a carryover there, which makes it very beneficial for me because I usually will do the initial consults and evals, and then those two will do treatments and follow ups, and I'll do re
Yeah.
examinations. So we have a nice little flow going there.
Yeah, and I suspect that overflow of patients was because of the podcast with, Doctor Peter Attia, is that correct?
Yes, it was just to put this in perspective for you. Um, Foot and ankle, I think, there's not a lot of people
Mhm.
that treat foot and ankle. Uh, there just really isn't. It's my mission to change that, of course.
Yeah.
Um, but so we were busy before the podcast, and I knew going on the podcast that I was actually just thinking that we were going to get a couple more followers on Instagram, and it was just going to be a good, marketing
Mhm.
tool. And I was grateful to have the platform to share my message. The day after the podcast, we use online scheduler. You can you can see the wait list.
Mhm.
Okay. The next day, there were over 100 people on that wait list. It was absolute. insanity. And it's still that way now. So that podcast was in April. It's now
Mhm.
September. So it has been a wild,
Mhm.
wild ride. And it's even more, I'm even on a mission more now
Mhm.
because I'm seeing all these people that are in need,
Yeah.
that have had multiple surgeries that, I think could have been prevented. Like there really is a massive need for this work.
Yeah.
So, it just, they're good problems to have.
Yeah. Yeah, and you did a great job on that episode. I remember listening to it. I listened to most of his, and you represented the foot and ankle very well, the profession very well yourself, and it's an interesting
Thank
podcast because I know a lot of people are probably doctors of some sort. That is his audience, but he also obviously has a lay person audience as well. And I thought the episode did a great job of speaking to medical and DCs like me and then the regular person, and so that was cool to see that happen, and
you.
to it's kind of a culmination of a lot of work you put in.
Oh, I mean, when he asked me to be on that podcast,
Mhm.
um, I I was like, "Okay." Like, and that's exactly what uh my initial thought was, is that I'm going to be representing not only, myself, but also our community. And I put a lot of pressure on myself, as I
Mhm.
usually do with most things. But I really wanted to represent um us very well. And so when I tell you I prepared for that thing, I mean, I was in it for
Yeah.
many, many, like, I wanted to know my research. I went back and I read and I talked to Tom, and there were a lot of hours, but I enjoyed doing it because,
Mhm.
again, uh, it's just helped me also have better
Yeah.
discussions with patients and how to communicate. So it was a really great experience.
Yeah, that's great. And would you say that your process over the years of building Gait Happens on, say, Instagram and that type of stuff, did that kind of lead to that opportunity? Was that how he found
Yes.
you?
It
Yeah.
was his trainer had found us on Instagram,
Mhm.
and then I started working with her, and then she introduced me to him. Um, and she has, been instrumental kind of in that relationship. And that's why I'm going to go back to that relationship thing. It's so important,
Yep.
is building relationships with people. And I think the beauty of social media is that it has made our world very small.
Yep.
Um, and we have access now to meeting so many people and really spreading your message. It is a lot of work.
Mhm. Mhm.
Started, I started in my Instagram account 2000, and I think it was 16, maybe 17. And at the time, it wasn't Gate Happens. It was just Dr. Courtney Conley.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine had said, "You really like this foot and ankle stuff. You should." And she was already kind of deep in the Instagram world. And she said, "You should start posting about the foot and ankle." And I said, "Okay, well, when?" She's like, "Every day." And I was like, "Are you serious?" So at the time in my practice, I was 5 days a week, 9 to 5, just slammed.
Mhm.
And then I would come home and I would start to do these Instagram posts that I was terrible at. And it would
Mhm.
take me 2 hours to like type it up and figure out the pictures. And I mean, I look back on it, I'm like, I can't believe, I mean, again, hours of
Mhm.
time. But I was never really, the things that I would post were always things I found exciting,
Mhm.
always like cool patient cases or cool things I was seeing in my office. And I think that, and I enjoyed it. And I think that
Mhm.
that also came across. But the consistency, and I think the love for what I did, is what really grew that. And now it's its own animal.
Yeah, 250,000 followers, and I'm sure it's been great and fun to do that. And it's one of the things, another nugget that I like to kind of tease out of this with, a lot of evidence-based chiropractors, when they hear the word marketing or they think of promotion or marketing, they get a little bit queasy. And I try to, dispel that myth. And I bring on a lot of people here that are clinicians first. And that happened to also do a pretty good job. Sometimes it's like invisible marketing. You don't really look at them as like their marketing. It's just a form of content marketing that they've done consistently and really have positioned themselves as an expert through that. It's not, you know, $27, come in, get X-ray ads and all that type of stuff. It's actual just educational content. And nobody should be above that as chiropractors. And if you do it consistently, you're going to benefit from it. Right? I think the vast majority of chiropractors are going to benefit in their community. And if you get lucky enough and it goes past that and, you like the opportunities you've had, great, but I wouldn't don't assume that's gonna happen for you, but obviously your end goal should just to be positioning yourself as an expert, in your community, and that's what's done, and then sometimes it transcends that, right? And it's even better, but for some people, I think a great scenario, it's kinda like, the analogy I give sometimes is where, parents are raising their kids and she happens to be a really good athlete, and then you just expect they're going to be a professional athlete. The chances of becoming a professional athlete are just so low. But if you get college paid for it, that'd be pretty cool,
Yeah.
right? And that's what you should be like. That'd be really awesome. And it's the same way. It's like if you position yourself so good in your community in something through content marketing, you may not become an international person, but what could happen is you actually will spread outside of your town and you'll get people driving 40 minutes and 45 minutes and 30 minutes instead of you hear a lot of chiropractors radius of patients is like within a 3 to 5 mile radius of your practice. And that's fine. But if you can get that, like people are coming from 2 towns over, 3 towns over, you're gonna build a remarkable practice, and I think that's some of the things you can do with good marketing.
Yeah. I mean, I also think if you're going to do something like marketing, enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I love creating content. That was always, what I've always had a passion for. So if I was going to do it, I better be enjoying it because if I'm not,
Mhm.
people can feel it. They can feel if you're doing something because you have to versus doing something because you want to.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't have to be this, oh, I have to go to this marketing thing. You're like, oh, I want to go to this running shoe store because I want to see the next shoe that they're putting out.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to, enjoy what what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. I agree. Let's take a short break for one of our great sponsors, TrackStat. It is a new type of software plugin for your EHR that combines patient communication, marketing, automation, and statistics with patient and employee tracking. Built by chiropractors for chiropractors, it shows your team what to focus on each day. See patient visit habits, missing information, unpaid bills, insurance collection visit average, and more. Great visibility of data so you can focus on filling your office with your best patients. When you can see what your staff and patients are doing or not doing and take action accordingly, your profits naturally grow. Take TrackStat for a test drive in your office with our free trial. Not a techie, no problem, we can help. To get started on your free trial, visit trackstat.org and watch the demo. That is trackstat.org. And then on the clinical side, obviously with the foot and ankle, there's going to be if you were to talk to a chiropractor that's interested in becoming foot and ankle, I know there's the assessment of it, there's the gait of it, the palpation, there's the treatment. What are if you had to give, you don't have to go in the weeds of it, but where would you want them to get really good at? What aspects of the assessment? What does that look like in say your clinic? What about palpations and treatments and rehab? Like, what are some of the continuum there?
You know, my mentor, Dr. Sean Allen, used to tell me, especially at the foot and ankle, you have
Mm.
to know you're in
Yeah.
because there's a lot going on there. So in our functional gait assessment course, the level
Mhm.
one, um, the first part of it is reviewing anatomy. There's 4 layers of intrinsic muscles. We should be able to know what those muscles are and what their function is, especially if we're going to be treating the foot and ankle like we would the rest of the body, which is does something need strengthened? And if so, how am I going to do it?
Mhm.
So, with a good foundation of that, then we can start to build. I think gait assessment can be very daunting because you're just like, there's so much to look at. Um, and I think, surrounding yourself with people that can help guide you is extremely important because we've been doing this for very long periods of time. So we've been able to break it down and say, okay, this is how we're going to simplify this for you.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that would be my suggestion there.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I think, um, it is complicated, like you said, and if your education is just what the school curriculum was, you're not gonna get a whole lot of that, and you gotta go outside of that, which is cool. You mentioned a particular course that you teach. What was the name of that again?
Yeah, so we have a functional gait assessment level 1, which is our
Mhm.
assessment course. So it's a
Yep.
2-day, 16-hour CE certified course. So the first day is all gait assessment, and then, Dr. Winchester always says this, and I always steal it because I love it. That gait assessment takes you to the seat,
Mhm.
right? Or to the stadium. I think it was to the
Yeah.
stadium. Um, and in our day two, we say day two is taking you to the seat, right?
Yep.
Because gait assessment, you're just, you're looking at things, you're paying attention. What do I need to further assess?
Mhm.
Then you can go joint by joint. And that's what we do on day two. So it does get a little technical as far as, things in the foot, which is why we go through the anatomy part and on day one.
Yep.
So, and then the level 2 course, which is the one I wrote last year, is the treatment course.
Gotcha.
So that is same thing, 16 hours, but that's all treatment. So we
Mhm.
want people to get very good at assessing. You can't treat if you don't know what you're looking for.
Yep.
So assessment, get good, and then the treatment, which is the fun stuff. I think it's all good.
Yeah, and with the treatment, is it, obviously maybe some recommendations, some muscle manual therapy work, maybe some manipulation, rehab? Is there anything I'm missing on the treatment side that you guys
Yeah,
offer?
on the first day we do
Mm,
kind of I designed it so we're looking at treating the deficit first. So we're looking at breathing patterns, proximal stability, ranges of motion, strength capacity. Um, I think people forget what a powerhouse the foot and ankle is. And I always repeat this statistic because it's fun. At a baseline, a standing single leg calf raise, we should be able to hold half of our body weight and do that 6 times.
okay.
If you were seated and did a single leg calf raise, that's 1.5 times your body weight. So that's like a baseline for return to run, which I have never seen whether I'm treating an NFL player or I'm treating, a high school athlete. Nobody really comes close to that. So it's a very big opportunity for us. And then in the afternoon, we look at things like motor control patterns,
Mhm.
functional movements, making movement functional, plyometrics, not forgetting that we actually have to train the spring. The foot is a
Mhm.
spring. So, and then we do a bunch of case studies and everybody has a good time.
Nice, nice. Let's take a short break from today's episode to tell you about the best decision I've made in my clinic in the last 10 years, and that has been adding shockwave therapy to our clinic. The outcomes have been really impressive. Certain conditions we were struggling with in the past, we're now seeing results with the shockwave therapy for that. And second of all, the ROI has been really good. When you make a big investment in something, you want to see a return, and we're seeing that return in clinical outcomes and in our investment, and that's been really nice to see. I chose Keenest Medical for 4 reasons. One is the technology is top notch. You have to have great technology. There's a lot out there that isn't quite up to snuff. The second thing is they have a really good clinical training. They have an exclusive partnership with Academy of Shockwave Excellence so that you can become clinically proficient in shockwave. You do need to get skilled at it. I think that's a big differentiator between practices that are getting great results and seeing the ROI is they have a great clinical aspect to that as well. So you want to get trained appropriately. Third is they have in-house service team for all of your technical support, which is key when you're investing in a machine like this. And then lastly, they have a very in-depth marketing and business support for you so that you can launch this into your practice effectively, that you can get that ROI on it, that you can get the clinical outcomes. And they also have really good financing options if you need that. So go to keenestmedical.com, KINAS medical.com. mention MCM podcast and receive a free Shockwave in practice book with a purchase of a unit. So that's kinasmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, and mention MCM podcast. So you mentioned earlier the book, Human Locomotion. I walked past my associate Gage's desk and he had that up because he'll be at the MPI Gait Seminar.
Yes.
We're sending him there, and you're going to be there with Brett Winchester and Mark King and Tom Michaud, and that's going to be exciting. That's on what, November 16th and 17th in Troy, Missouri, at Brett's place. Have you been there before?
Yes, I have. I'm very, very excited. This is just a quick story.
Hmm.
I had bought Human Locomotion when I was in chiro school decades ago. And I've had an obsession with that book. And when I first started doing this, I wrote my first course and I was teaching in New York City. And one of the attendees had worked with Tom or had worked down the street from Tom.
Hmm.
And after the course, she had gone to see him and she gave him some very good feedback about the course.
Hmm.
So fast forward like a week, and I'm working with a patient in my office. And you know how when you get an email, it like come across the top of your computer? It's like a
Yes.
note. And it said, Tommy showed, like from Tommy showed. And I was like,
Mhm.
so I had to like excuse myself and I leave and I'm reading the email and he's like, I just wanted you to know that one of your attendees contacted me and I just wanted to say congratulations on your course. I heard it was wonderful. And I mean, to this day, it was like the president emailed me. I was like, because your biggest mentor, I was his
Yeah.
biggest fan. And to have it come full circle that
Hmm.
now I'm going to be teaching next to him and also Brett is just an honor. And I'm just so blessed. And it's just a really wild, fun ride.
Yeah, it is. It's cool when they come full circle. I've had a couple of those in my career, and I've attended the gate in the past. I usually send any of my associates to it. It's cool to see you added to the lineup. It's going to be pretty impressive to do that. What are a couple of things that you're going to be instructing on while you're there?
We're still discussing the
Hmm.
lineup there. I'm hoping to, um, obviously do some gait assessment. I also have a little section on tendons that I would love to talk about. I see a lot of post-tib tendonitis, Achilles tendonitis, and I think there's a lot of information there that we as chiropractors can do to benefit
Hmm.
this patient.
That'd be great, and I highly recommend people attend that MPI Gate course. And then, obviously, if they want to check out more with what you're doing, Where can our chiropractors find out more what you're doing, and try to keep at this mastery journey? Right.
Yes, yes. Gatehappens.com. On that website, we have a section for practitioners.
Hmm.
Um, and we have a bunch of educational courses. We have online courses. We have live courses, all the way from gait assessment to, um, you know, foot strength, things like that. The other thing that we have that I've really enjoyed doing is we have a Gait Guru membership. And I started that because I wanted to interview all the power players in our field. So
Hmm.
we've been doing that for about 3 years. We've had Brett on there. We've had
Nice.
Tom on there. I've had top researchers around the world
Hmm.
giving us clinical expertise on how to treat the foot and ankle. And then every month we do case studies. So we have a live Zoom call. Everybody can bring their, questions and comments. I will prepare some case studies. And I think also the community that is built,
Hmm.
because we have a bunch of chiropractors in that membership, and we're always like, help me with this, or let me, so it's a
Yeah.
place to learn from one another. So yes, that is a bunch of, great resources for everyone.
Well, perfect. I'll make sure they get there. We'll put that in the show notes as well. And Doc, this has been a true pleasure. I wish I was making it to the Gate seminar, but I already have a previous engagement to be at. But I'll make sure that my associate Gage comes and says hello, and just make sure he learns a few things. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to make the shift from busy, broke, and broken to time-free and cash confident, or you just want to continue with the exponential growth, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com. Look at the MCM Mastery tab, watch the short video on there, and check out what we are doing now for evidence-informed chiropractors. We are equal parts coaching and marketing done for you. Yes, you shoot some videos, we help you with campaign strategies and ideas and really become a thought leader in your community. You shoot those videos, you send them to us, we produce, edit, and brand them to you. Then we distribute them through all of your channels. We also take them and we turn it into one good blog per month. And every other month, we have Darcy Sullivan producing a robust blog with a topic that you pick from her database to help with your SEO. So we essentially become your content marketing agency to make sure your practice is always having ethical, elegant content marketing to help grow your practice. On the coaching side, we also help you with everything from marketing ideas to business, communications, finances, anything practice growth, and really try to help prevent you from being stuck on that island. And we hold you accountable. We have a great group of doctors that are just doing amazing things, and we look forward to help you out to take that next step in your practice. So again, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and learn more.